So folks, we've got a piece of garden here that has had some perennials in, a few bits and pieces, looking a bit scrappy, ripped it all out, and what a better plants to put in here and replace it with some gorgeous grasses. So we've cleared it out, and in this space, I want to plant a whole lot of grasses to accompany this beautiful wheatgrass that I've got behind it. So the wheatgrass is a bit taller, got some lovely movement in it. So we're going to work with some smaller ornamental grasses that I haven't introduced you to yet and add a little bit of a spin on it. But first things first, folks, and it's all about the preparations. First up, we've got to get in some good compost. Now, compost, get it from your local garden centre, folks. Please be very cautious to buy from the side of the road that's not in the proper bags, because you're going to buy in not only compost, but a whole lot of weed seeds. The thing is, when you buy it from a garden centre, you are guaranteed that there are no weeds in this compost, and that goes for potting soil as well. So I've put it in my trug, which makes it way easier. All I do is sprinkle some round. That's it. Get a good sprinkling all over the garden. Put it over the soil, and we want it to be at least about 2 centimeters thick. All right. Every time you plant, you are using compost. We have a saying in gardening: if you can't afford the compost, leave the plant behind. That's simple. All right, next up, on top of all my compost, I'm adding in some bone meal. You know what it's called, fairy dust. Bone meal in. You can never add too much, but bone meal always needs to get dug into the soil. Folks, it does nothing if you sprinkle it on the surface. Really, absolutely nothing. It's got to get in contact with the roots. Next up, handful or 2 of organic pellets, just sprinkled over the top. There we go. And everything's good to go. Now all we do is spread it out. And then dig it in to a good fork's depth in and turn your soil over. Now, this is the part where you really need to make sure that you're digging it right in to the fork's depth. Get it in, because you can see here we're pulling up bits of clay, some other soil. So we want to add the compost. That's why we're adding compost into soil. Nice. Okay, a little bit of raking over here with the fork. Get it nice and level, and job done. Right, that's the hard part. Now you come with the fun part. So what I've got is a great collection of grasses here. This little guy over here, he's a pennisetum. Now, many of you would know the common pennisetum. You get the one with the beautiful red leaf, which gets a red plume. This guy is called Mowbray, one of the newer varieties. You're going to find it available now in your local garden centres. And what I love is the grey leaf. Absolutely stunning. I'm so sorry that it's not in flower yet, but it's going to get a tall plume about that long, just shooting off the top. And what I like about the pennisetums is that they hold their flowers proud. So nice and tall, so you get that distinct difference between the foliage at the bottom and your flowers just peeping out from the top. Now, this guy is going to get to about 50 centimeters in height. So we're going to place him towards the back of the bed. I've got 3 of them, and I'm going to pop literally one over here. There we go. Another little baby right here, and one in the back. So I've got a little triangular formation with enough space between them so that they can fill out. And it's important that you do plant in these groups of 3s. With grasses, remember, we're trying to emulate what we see in nature. We're trying to remember those swathes. So let's get these babies in. Right, because we've prepped the soil, planting of this is really simple. All we do is going to open up a nice cavity for the plant. There we go. Now, the trick with grasses when you're planting them, folks, or even when you're dividing them, and this is critical, is when you pull this plant out the bag, like that. At this point, you've got 4 minutes to plant this plant. If you leave it out like this and you let these roots dry out, it's dead. Finished, gone kaput. And it's especially important when you are dividing grasses, because like any perennial, when it gets too big, you can lift it, cut it back hard, break it up into clumps, and give some to your friends and family. But the trick is always to keep the roots damp. So if you are going to be transplanting and you've divided them and you've got quite a lot, just take a bit of water, sprinkle it over it, or a wet sack, That often does the trick very nicely, just to keep the roots cool and damp. If they dry out, guys, please be very, very careful of that. Right, I'm happy with the background planting. I'm going to introduce you to these little guys. Man, every time I see them, they take my breath away. And I've got so many in my garden, you know, just keep on buying more. It's probably like a good chocolate, you know, your favorite. So I can't help myself. Now, these two guys over here, this is called bronze carex. Always looks like it's dead. Please remind your garden helper and the rest of your family and friends that this plant is not dead. This is what it looks like. This is a lovely grass over here. This is called frosted curls, another type of ornamental grass. Great for lifting areas. And of course, we've got the heart at the back with the pennisetum, and we're wanting to put something slightly lower in now to get those crescendo levels that we look for in perennial borders. So lower in the front, getting up to some height, and then movement at the back. So let's position these little guys. I've got 1, 2, my third. Oh, look at that. Look at that contrast. Look at that between there, the brown and the grey. Okay, let's get these babies in. See, this is where the excitement starts building, because you know that you've chosen the right plants and you just can't wait to get them in to start looking fantastic. Oh, okay. Right, guys. This is where we need a bit of divine intervention. You can see this plant has been in the pot for quite a while. This is normal. Don't stress about it. Don't think, oh, root-bound plant, it's going to be hideous, not going to grow in my garden. Not true. Grasses are like children who haven't taken their Ritalin in the morning. They are very adventurous and excitable, and that's why they grow lots of good roots. So what we want to do is, remember, we want to break the cycle of them going round and round and round. And all we're going to do is take the pair of secateurs and literally just cut in a bit here. That's all I want to do. Just cut in a bit so that we break the cycle of the plants that are just simply going round and round. Once we've done that, just open it up a bit. There we go. Do you see that? Open it up a bit there. There we go. That's all the plant needs. It just needs like a change in direction. That's it. Do that and you're good to go. Safe. Okay? Let's get this baby in. Ooh, nice. Nice, nice, nice. All right. Next little guy. Remember, I've still got the triangle. 1, 2, 3. That's it. One thing that I haven't told you, and that's with grasses, one of the greatest way to soften border edging. So when we're talking about border edgings, I might be talking about this here, like the stone that's on the outside, or it could be cobble edging, or it could be simply some rocks that you're trying to kind of hide a bit in the garden, or an unsightly pool cover. Well, the great way to break it is by using things with long linear leaves and soft that can move in the wind. And look immediately when I put this against the edge here, how it just softens it. And that is one of the great attributes of this plant. Remember, when you've planted, always make sure that you haven't mounded the soil up too far up against the neck of the plant. A general mistake that many gardeners make, and what it does is it causes collar rot. So you'll actually strangle the plant. So just make sure that you've pulled the soil just a bit away once you've done your initial planting. Okay. Okay, and my last little baby that I'm putting in is little frosted curls. And let's get some holes dug for him. I've got 3, also the same triangular. Now, obviously, if you had a bigger space that you were working in, you would just use more of them. And still keeping those same groupings going in the swathes that you're looking for. And that's what's most important. Okay. Now, when you are planting up garden beds, and you find that, you will find, in fact, most times, that you're ending up with too much garden soil. And that's, of course, because you've dug a hole, you've removed that soil, and inside it, you're putting a plant. So please be cautious not to just keep mounding up the soil. If you do find excess soil, rather just scoop it away, scatter it into another section of the garden so that you avoid that constant building up of your garden beds. So that eventually you can end up with garden beds and then this big slope and then the lawn. No, not cool. So remember I told you that there was something cool, a little twist, and these are them here. Now, there is nothing better than having grasses as your underlay with little flowers popping through them. This is a Dianthus. I've bought them in these cute little packs, little 6 plants in a pack. You can buy them as little seedlings as well. And all I'm going to do is take them and pop them literally just in between my grasses. So all I'm wanting is them just to pop through in different areas. Remember, in order for it to be effective, you need these flowering plants to flower slightly taller than the grasses, or else it's going to mean nothing. Now, these guys are going to grow up to about that height. Still little young seedlings that I'm putting in, but I know what the end result is going to be. So grab them and literally just pop 1 or 2 in between your grasses. So not only am I getting some color, but I'm also covering up these gaps which I've left on purpose for the grasses to be able to grow into. So while they're growing in, you don't need to look at the soil. Why not look at some pretty flowers? So there we have it, the little Dianthus in between, just popping out with a bit of color. Now, Dianthus are an annual, but can actually be treated as a perennial. And I'm going to show you why and explain. These little guys, as I said, are going to get about that tall. Each plant's going to spread out nicely. When it's finished flowering, please, please prune it back. The more you prune it back, that little dead stalk, the more it's going to flower for you again. Treat it that way and it'll go on for at least 2 years in your garden. Yep. This little plant, 2 years. So encourage it to flower more. Also, believe it or not, the flowers are edible. Put them in salads, put them in your drinks. Surprise family and friends. Your mother-in-law might think you're trying to do it in. No. Anyway, they are edible and are quite delicious. So, last up, all I've got to do, give my garden a good water. With grasses, once they've established, a good watering once a week is all they need. When you've just planted them, I'd encourage you to give them a good watering twice a week. But thereafter, you can wean them off, and they're pretty tough little guys. Okay, in we go. Some good watering, and I get to sit back and enjoy this gorgeous garden.